What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Dare2727. Shout out to my Transformers collectors, 1/12 scale collector, whatever you collect, shout out to you. And this month's video for July 2026 is a culmination of our road to the perfect display. It's actually a collection tour. So you'll see the final display setup I landed on, and we'll talk more in another video about why I chose what I chose, but I hope you enjoyed the video. So my collection is in the basement. So when you start out, you go to this bar area and everything is backlit. Like, so you get that dramatic view. So like, we'll go through each shelf individually, but like, as you can see, kind of, it's 3 shelves in the bar area. These figures are meant to be for public consumption, meaning like my main collection is in my office. You don't have to go into my office to enjoy these. You could just be in the basement chilling. And we had it backlit for dramatic effect, but when you cut on the lights, you can see the full detail of the figures as we just cut on the lights. And we'll go look at each shelf individually, and at the top you can see it's just Giga Power Dino Bots. Kind of nothing real, you know, the beautiful figures, but nothing real special about them. If you're in this MP game, you kind of know what you're getting with these, but these are drop dead gorgeous figures. And the backlit, they glisten even better. This middle shelf is my infamous shelf of assholes. I've said about this and people have liked this before, but these are just characters who've been jerks, dicks, assholes, just people you want to slap the smug taste out of their mouth. And let's start off, of course, Homelander, Hulk Hogan. Yes, Hulk Hogan is an asshole. And when you see those small Spider-Man and Transformer figurines, those are my sons. He just wants to contribute to the collection. Of course, Cobra Commander and Starscreamer and Vegeta, Beerus, 000, Vader, Dr. Alpha, of course, Skeletor, Moff Gideon, of course, Rick Sanchez, right? Like, he might be the king of assholes, but these are just characters that get on your ever-loving nerves. And below this is my shelf of heroes, the kind of good guys. Are just characters I've always liked, have been like enthralled with. Enthralled ain't the right word, but characters I've always liked. And like Falcon, I always thought Falcon Cap. Ric Flair, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Sunman. If you're black, you know how important Sunman is to you. Colossus is my favorite X-Man. Marvel Studios, Captain America and Black Panther, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. And it's a very beautiful display. As we step back and you see the full thing, it's very eye-catching. One, because of the Giga Power, how they shine, and just the variety of characters. We're about to go into my office, which is my main display. So that's a preview. You can see no lights on. We'll get to that in a minute. That's the main event. But before we get to that, let's talk about this framed artwork here. I got this idea from Jim Mint Collectibles, and what it is all of the Just Go cards from like 91, 92, 93 Marvel, all of them framed and, you know, in order. And this was such an important part of my Marvel journey. Shout out to Sam D. Me and him used to try to get all of these, but we could only get maybe 6 or 7. They were so exclusive at the time. But once I found out they were online, I got them all there. Now this is where I'm gonna get beat up by my wife. The pack is $35. The frame was like $400. But I always thought of these as masterpieces of art, just in trading card form, and I had to get them all once I saw them. And even added Stan Lee to the frame just to be like, hey, look at what I created and how important Stan Lee was to, you know, our childhood. As we pivot, my main view is kind of to my MP Transformer collection. That's my pride in joy in collecting. And we definitely get more into each shelf. Those are my wrestling figures. But I also have this table that's like an aquarium table that houses my Legends collection. And it's basically like a stand of the last light. If you're familiar with IDW, you'll know what I'm talking about. And we'll dig deep more into it. But before we talk of that, we're going to talk about some of the books I have on top. I have Bobby Skullface art book, Defending Our Myths and Heroes. That Anatomy of a Metahuman is a super cool book. It explains the biology behind some of DC characters' powers. That Transformers coloring book is from my childhood. That Mirage, that's Phantasm, is from my boy Vince. Vince hollered at me. Everything in that Valiant comics from when I was a kid. That's the Rock bag that has a whole bunch of tools and stuff in that. I'll do a video on that on one pretty soon. But yeah, those books are really cool books. And inside of here, like I said, this is my Lost Light kind of mashup kind of thing. And if you don't know, in IDW, at the end, the Autobots are protecting Megatron from the DJD, and kind of, you know, Megatron is having a realization moment. And I just made like a mashup of this. And if you see, it's a whole bunch of Iron Factory figures. That's MMC wrong. You see Megatron right there. Iron Factory, Minimus, and Drifter protecting him with New Age Ratchet from that double dealer. You got that DJD combiner. You got Iron Factory Nova Prime, Iron Factory Six Shot, Iron Factory Cyclonus, Iron Factory Overlord, Iron Factory Dialysis, Iron Factory Madness, Iron Factory Sky Shadow. You got some Iron Factory Seekers back there. some more Iron Factory goodness. Like I said, that rung. You got some Iron Factory 6. I really like that Iron Factory Windblade versus that Slipstring. I love that I got them in the stand. And Windblade is in such a dynamic pose. You have Iron Factory Fallen versus Alpha Trion. You have, like I said, that Iron Factory Megatron being protected by Drift while Ratchet and Minimus are attending to him. This just it's a battle scene, and it's one of the ones that kind of like is recreated from IDW. So, and it's really, I love looking at it. It's something cool, and I always try to buy one Legend scale figure a year to put in there. And I'm so happy with this display. Yeah, and before we get started with each shelf, let's talk about kind of my main display, my MP display. So I did a series Road to the Perfect Display where I talked about the challenges of displaying MP Transformers and me coming up with my perfect display. And I decided on this. And what this gives me is modularity. Basically, I can move the shelves up, down, left, right, add shelves, remove shelves, and I can make this a living, breathing thing. And that's something that was very important to me. And how you're viewing it now is how I see my collection. My office chair and my office desk is right behind where I'm taking this picture at. And just a high level overview of my collection. The top shelves are basically my non-transforming Transformers. On the left side is my season 1 and 2 bots. On the right side is my season 3 and 4 bots. When you look at the top area, is my good guy non-transforming Transformers area, and let's get started. As we go, we're going to start with 3 zeros, Mirage, and he come with that Noah Diaz, which is accessory. The figure's good, the accessory sucks. Next up, we got Flames Towards Jazz with Yoda teaching him how to use the Force. He's pulling Stevie Wonder's Hotter Than July to him, the fantastic album, a great figure. Up next, we got kind of the leaders of the Lost Light. We got Rodimus, Madness, and Drift All Flames Towards that. Rodimus is my favorite toy in my collection. Next up, this figure is gorgeous but sucks. Flames towards Star Saber and Victory Leo. That Victory Leo is horrible. And finally, we have Bingo towards Windblade, and she definitely looks beautiful. Now, as we start below the non-transformer stuff, you get into the real G1 stuff. You got Megatron and some of his loyalists. I'm using Fans Toys, Reflect the Mate Toys, Megatron and the Seekers of Takara, the first edition. And you see a couple of Easter eggs. You see MMC's Mirage about to shoot him. The version where he faints, where he transforms. You see Megatron about to shoot, holding Prime Head as a statue. As you go over, you see Shockwave and some of those Cybertron bots. You still get Fans Towards Quake Wave and the MP11 mode. That's my Seeker mode of choice. Over here, you got the mashup of Mirage where he saves the day from in More Than Meets the Eye, when he saves the day for the ship and they're cheering him on. And then finally on this level, you get kind of Prime and just some bots or whatever. You get Ironhide, of course, who's like his number 2. You get Jazz, who's number 3. Skyfire. I think everything over there is Fans Toys and Takara. We start off with our next area, and it is Soundwave and all of his minions. And I tried to create that famous Deviant art picture with him and his minions. And in there were a couple of Easter eggs. One, you can see Blaster tucked away, and you can see him holding Megatron. So that's that shelf. The next shelf, Decepticon Triple Changers, Blitzwing, and Astro Train. And that shelf has so much presence just for 2 figures, partly because they're both deco completely different from each other. Next, we have Fans Toys Minosaur, and that's a spotlight shelf. Like, that's where my eyes are primarily drawn when I'm sitting at my desk. So this is where I put the featured bot of my collection at. The next area is kind of like an Autobots chilling motif. I'm still not finished with that shelf, but you see Blaster, he's whipping up something on the turntables. He got some music. He about to do some lean. Jazz is rapping. You see a couple guys and girls chilling. You see Perceptor interacting with some women while reading a book. You see Sea Spray and Power Glide just chilling. Like, I want to get a DJ set up for Blaster. I've seen a couple I like. I just don't know where to find them. And this last shelf is just a couple of bots. I really like that X-Trans bots camshaft, but you see that with skids and smoke screen. The next area is Fans Toys Superior with Takara, Inferno, and Bad Cubes. Red Alert, that Bad Cube Red Alert is going to get replaced, but I do like how it's standing there with his back turn, like F Inferno. Going to skip over Omega for now. And the next, this is the worst combined in my collection, arguably the worst figure in my collection. Magic Squad Bruticus, I hate this figure, but shout out to TNT Neon Prime for the gun. And then next up, we have Fans Toys Dinobots. We have Fans Toys Ratchet working on Snarl. We have Wheeljack. You see a little Easter egg. You see Slag standing on Devastator's head, that's Toy World Devastator. That was a backup head that they sold extra. The final area of our season 1 and 2 display is fans, toys, and Decepticons. Very underrated figures. I tried to get multiples to make it look like they are cloning themselves or have a little army. You see the two different versions of Bombshell. Next up is Omega, fans, toys, Omega with the Warpath and the Beachcomber. And I just have those figures there just because they're season 2 characters that make Omega look bigger by using mini bots. And you see Beachcomber, he has X-Transbots birds and they'll simulate that Golden Lagoon scene. And then the final chef in this area and the newest figure is Fans Toys Dinobots with Grapple and Hoist, and they're doing from that Master Builders episode where they're trying to build that power tower together. I know I said Dinobots, but I meant Devastator. We finished our season 1 and 2 area, so let's get into our seasons 3, 4, and other area. So the top row is my bad guy non-transforming figures, so we'll start with that. And of course we have Flames Towards Torn with MMC Nickel. That Nickel was sold in a 2-pack with the pet, but I sold that. But I'm displaying them together because Nickel is so important to Torn's story. Hopefully I can put a picture up where it's kind of a defining moment for him. But I like how those two displayed together. I wish Flames Toys would do a nickel. Next is the original Venerables Sentinel Prime, and this is a KO of the Hasbro figure. And it's a good figure. It has diecast, it has all this other stuff, but I wish 3-0 or more professional company would tackle this. But the KO is fine, and that blank space will be 3-0 lockdown when he comes out. And this is Flames Toys Megatron, another beautiful Flames Toys figure that Mace gives it a lot of presence. And we start the second row with arguably the worst displaying figure in my collection, MMC Skylinks. It desperately needs an update, but its display presence is very weak. But it's ironic because it's standing right next to probably the best displaying figure in my collection, at least the single shelf, King towards Pretty King, between the paint and just the stylistic look of them and how big the sword and the gun are paws. Like, this is probably the standout shelf in all of my collection. It's absolute, and the wings, of course. It's absolutely beautiful, gorgeous figure. And next to that is some season 4 goodness. You have the X-Transbots Target Masters, Misfire Slug Slinger. You have their Punch and Counter Punch. You have Fans Toys 6 Shot and Fans Toys Acoustic Wave and Acoustic Blaster. And I really like that Pose 6 Shot is in. And next you have Studio Cell or Zeta, whatever their name was, that Unicron. That's actually a really good figure. I don't think it gets the flowers it deserves. I'm just gonna back out a little bit so you can kind of see like that shelf or those shelves and how kind of like that Predator King dominates that space, because it's naturally where your eyes go to because it's such an imposing figure. It's even bigger than a Unicron. So when you at that level, you can see Predator King dominates the space. We start the next shelf with Fans Toys Headmasters, and I think those effects are from Ion Labs or New Supply, one or the other, but I really like the misfire with the mind wipe thing. And next shelf ends where Hot Rod becomes Rodimus, and I'm still working on that shelf. I need to get some effects and some stands to make it look, and a couple more matrices. But the good thing is I got, a bunch of kind of figures cheering them on, and I think that them doing different stances gives a little life to that shelf. And next we have the Decepticon Big 3 from Season 3 and 4. Galvatron, Cyclonus, Scourge, all Fans Toys. We start the next area with some Season 3 and 4 characters. Season 3 Minibot, Season 4 Headmaster and Target Master. That Make Toys Point Blank. We talked about Make Toys last month. And that Swerve has Make Toys accessories. I really like that figure. And those accessories make it a little more comic book-like. As we head over to the KFC Junkions, and I know it's kind of cliche to put junk on the shelf with them, but I couldn't help myself. I think it just makes it look more to form with the characters, and those are all good figures. And I like having so many because it makes them feel like their own race. As we move up, we have Runabout and Run Amok, and I like the fact that they can be displayed together. Just, kind of break up the display some. And the same thing with Sandstorm and Octane. The cartoon went out his way to show that those two had a unique friendship, and I'm glad I'm able to display them by themselves away from others. And the last area is kind of a lot of one-offs and miscellaneous stuff. All the cars you see are basically from the Bayverse. Say what you want about the Bayverse, but they did use some cool cars, and third party did a really good job of capturing how those cars look. You see the X-Transbots, Omnibots, the racing versions, and MMC Drift over there, but I really like those. And down below that, you will see the Transformers video game shelf, and Transformers video games always meant a lot to me. It brought me back into my love of Transformers and reminded me of that. And this here is Transformers 1. And that Bumblebee helmet is basically a movie popcorn bowl. I'm just using that to hide the wires that come into the house for the internet. As we move to our last shelf, this is called the shelf of randos. I think every display has a shelf of randos. Bots that don't really fit into the G1 space, but no cool characters, or maybe they're part of the fabric of G1, even if they never weren't in a cartoon. And you can see the Zeta Toys train bots, Reboost, Hubcap, Scoop, G2 Sideswipe, and Takara Cardone. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my wrestling collection. 80s, 90s, and early 2000s wrestling, especially the territorial wrestling, means just as much to me as MP Transformers or Transformers in general. So I have to find a way to display my collection. But these cases are display go-go cases. I find them on Etsy. They're really good, but I want to make my collection more dynamic. So let's start real quickly. In this case, you have World Class, Memphis, and AWA wrestling territories. Move up, you got the WWF, all iterations of it. And forgive the figures, I hate moved the cases and that shifted the figures. You got 80s and 90s, good guys, bad guys, in the Attitude Era in the middle. Over here, you have just some other, you have working on Smoky Mountain, Continental Wrestling, and the top are just random figures, probably from, I'm probably moved to my more WWF dynamic display. And at the bottom, you got NWA, WCW, you have, forgive the glare of the lights, but you got 80s and 90s good guys in the top, and I mean in the middle and the bottom, the bad guys in the middle, and then you have the NWO and other fillers. But that's my wrestling collection, and I'm working on a new way to display it. And this has been my collection tour. I'm going to do a post-mortem video on things I've learned because I got some really good information. That'll probably be August video. But anyway, this has been my collection tour. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you as always for watching.